I would like to ask the Chief Minister what assessment has been made of a potential increase in food prices as set out in Section 7 of the Yellowhammer documents. What steps have been or are being taken to mitigate the impact, especially on low-income groups, and if you will make a statement?
Chief Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I assume that the honourable member is referring to Operation Yellowhammer, Her Majesty's Government's reasonable worst-case planning assumptions as published by the UK Government on the 11th of September, and I will take that assumption for all the other questions from the honourable member. This document does provide a planning assumption that should the UK leave the EU without a deal on the 31st of October, Mr. President, there is the potential for an increase in food prices. I agree that we cannot rule this out as a possibility. The most significant drivers of food price increases are food commodity prices, currency exchange rates and oil prices. The impact may be felt amongst food retailers immediately. However, the extent to which these price rises might be passed on to customers is a commercial decision for retailers to take. Government cannot dictate the extent or the rate at which industry absorbs increased supply chain costs without raising prices for the consumer. They may choose not to do so in order to protect their share of the consumer market. That is for them to decide. With regard to low-income groups, the honourable member raises a valid concern, and I thank him for his concern. It is important that we closely monitor any increases in prices. If, on the basis of that evidence, we judge that low-income groups are being significantly impacted, then we will take action. The Cabinet Office has raised the issue with the Council of Ministers' Social Policy and Children's Subcommittee in order that they might consider this particular issue.
Supplementary, Mr. Hooper.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The Isle of Man Brexit guide that was produced states that the UK imports approximately 30% of their supply from the EU. I'm assuming the Isle of Man imports a similar amount from the EU or through the EU. If the Chief Minister could clarify that, that would be useful. The Brexit guide also acknowledges that we could see an increase in the cost of food and does identify vulnerable groups in it, but it makes no mention of those on lower income who will be disproportionately impacted by any increase in prices. Am I right in thinking that the Chief Minister's answer then is that government has not taken any preparatory or contingency planning? They are simply going to monitor the price increases if and when they occur and will take action subsequent to that, but there's been no upfront contingency planning undertaken?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't wish to sound as if we haven't put the work in, Mr. President, but there are so many variants that could or may not happen that you can only really make sure that you're aware that there is a possibility and make sure that you are ready to respond should that, in some events, if that happens. Now, low-income families or individuals in receipt of benefits have the rate of inflation factored into their benefit allowance, and that's currently reviewed annually. However, Treasury do have the powers to do a review straight away if they feel that prices have been impacted, and obviously we will be taking that into account should the UK leave without a deal on the 31st of October, when obviously tariffs then kick in on a WTO basis. Regarding the other comment, I'm just noting the Brexit team, along with DEFRA, are working closely with food retailers. However, as food provision is a commercial enterprise and outside of government control, the decision to raise prices is one for industry make at the appropriate time, as I've previously said, but it is envisaged that UK-based retailers will hold prices for as long as possible. Now, UK-based retailers such as Tesco and Marks and Spencer's, etc., have set prices across the country, including the Isle of Man. Therefore, prices here are the same as in any other store. Consequently, our prices will only rise when they do in the United Kingdom. Isle of Man-based retailers such as ShopRite, Agrimark and Robinsons are not bound by the UK prices, and their prices may, and I say may, fluctuate more obviously. But it's impossible, Mr. President, to plan for everything. And I think I've said time and time again, we are as aware, with going over regularly, meeting the relevant officers in the UK departments as well as my political counterparts, of what the latest thinking is. And when we see events unfolding, then we will be ready to react quickly to ensure that if the problem does arise where food becomes too expensive for people, especially on low incomes, to be able to buy, then we will obviously step in and help, Mr. President.
Question 2, Honourable Member for Ramsey, Mr Hooper.
I'm going to say, Mr. President, I had one more supplementary on that, if that was okay.
I will permit it on this occasion, but you have got 15 or so questions, and I presume you'd like to get through them, so if we move things on.
Yes, sorry, the last supplementary on that question, actually, the Chief Minister has said that if there is an identified impact, they will step in to help. Can I ask how much funding has been set aside for this already?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. You can't come up with an exact amount. Obviously, Treasury are well aware that there may be a problem, and we have a general fund, and if that has to be increased to accommodate that, then that's what we will have to do, Mr. President. If I can give an example, a number of years ago when I first took over as Health and Social Care Minister, I toured the stores of the Department of Health and Social Care, and there on a shelf about to be thrown out was the bird flu vaccine, which had been bought in advance as an emergency preparation for the island, and it had expired, gone out of date, never used, and there was hundreds of thousands of pounds put in the skip, effectively. So it's trying to get a balance. So I want to reassure this Honourable Court that, of course, we are trying to plan for as much as possible, and obviously the document, which I know Minister Thomas was told off for waiving a document in front of this Honourable Court, but I have regularly put out, "Are you ready for Brexit?" It does give a good update into what to expect, and we will be doing our best for the residents of the Isle of Man, come what may.